Yes, you are.
It wasn't recording yet.
That's
It
okay.
just started. Watch, you'll see it's
Okay.
not even on the recording, but it makes me want to say the words again.
Okay.
Say it
Well,
again, then. Say it again. Ooh, she calling Jay Schmedium. Wow, that's crazy.
Ooh.
I wouldn't take that if I was you. I would
That's
not
what your
take that.
Ooh.
That's not what your homegirl said.
Ooh.
She probably said, "Where is that?"
He said, this is
Ooh.
all extra
Joke's
medium
on
right
you.
here.
She said nothing. Her mouth was full.
Ooh. Jay with the comeback.
I love that one. I'm gonna call her up
Yes.
and be like, "Yo, you better put that finger back where it belongs."
Whoa. She said the finger. Wow.
Wow.
Okay, come on, we gotta be on our
Wow.
best behavior. Remember,
Somebody go to happy hour today? I don't know. Somebody like they went to happy hour this evening.
Liddy tonight. That's cool.
I don't know. S&M said she came loaded, so don't play with her.
I hear. That's fine.
She said, "Do not play with her." That's what she said.
I'm a little tired. That's all. So I'm just gonna joke a little. So if I buck my eyes, it's like, damn, I'm tired. I can't be looking sleepy though.
So it's the delirium.
Okay.
All right, y'all. We ready to rock and roll, y'all? We still ready to rock and roll?
He was self-soothing, right? When he was brushing it down, he like, let me self-soothe. That's what it's called.
I got on
I'm
my.
done now. I'm done.
Wow.
You were coping, Jay.
Oh, I thought she was calling you a binky. My bad. I took that a whole different way. I was in and out of that conversation. Pause. But go That's funny.
See,
are y'all ready, man?
I'm sending somebody a link to the show. I'm being productive. I don't know what the fuck y'all doing over there. You know what I mean?
That's a fact. That's a fact. We are, just getting ready to get this party started. All right, y'all. Y'all ready? All right.
Good to go.
All right, little woosah. Mic check though. Oh shit, we doing mic check. Everybody sure. Mic check. S&M.
Yeah, you don't see this big ass thing right here?
It's not what I see, it's about what I hear.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know you're on a different type of time. That's all right. I'm doing my job. I'm moving past you. Go ahead.
1, 2, 3. 1.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
So,
thank you, Delvin, for participating.
She's literally on one. Literally.
Yeah. She didn't really get past one, did she? She was like, one.
That's one.
That's all I got. 1.
It's like a dream come true. Okay, guys.
I don't know what song that was.
It all came back to one. It all came back to one. It all came back to one.
You know we ain't got no Brian McKnight fans.
Well, I know his first fan was not a fan for sure. Y'all ready to get started?
They're not even McKnights. So yeah, they really not fans.
That's fucked up. This nigga said, "This is my real son now." We can start moving right on with that.
My son now.
He's a bastard. All right, y'all. Y'all ready? Here we go. In 3, 2. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, man, my headspace was off.
Okay, my bad. I said, are y'all ready? I didn't give y'all a chance to reply. Are y'all ready? I just said, y'all ready as well?
Yeah.
All right, I'm not ready. Okay, let's ready. In 3. Hold on, no water.
More light.
Don't let my Oprah get to you. You know what I'm saying? I worked hard for this Oprah. Oprah got like the best lighting for chocolate skin people in the game. All right, y'all ready, y'all? 3, 2, 1. Welcome to yet another, one of the greatest podcasts in the world. I want to say yet another episode of BLC Pod. That's not what this is. This is the making of, and congratulations to you for tapping into the making of the greatest podcast in the world, the BLC Pod Off-Season Conversations. Man, huh? You got some dollars? What?
I got some dollars. I was dancing. I was shaking it.
That's it now, man. Like, what type of time you on, girl? What type of time are you on? I love it though. You know what I'm saying? But listen, before I forget, because I did forget last time, y'all out there, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, share, engage in the conversation. If we're not causing y'all to engage, we're not doing our jobs. But if we are doing our jobs, and y'all gotta do y'all's and engage with us. And while you're engaging, check out the BLC merch at the BLC store. That's the right. S&M, is that some merch I see you going on? S&M got some merch on? Okay, y'all better stop playing with her. Apparently, it's merch that gets to your heart. It gets to your core. It takes you over. Okay, see what a toxic shirt will do for you by S&M's performance tonight. But with that being toxic.
It's not toxic, it's toxic.
You got to
I
get
don't
something
know.
on your chest before you can get it off your chest. Toxic.
Ooh,
There is a method. There is a
ooh.
method to it. Yes.
I could say that a whole different way, but I felt like we left the After Dark edition behind. There's still some remnants here. Anyways,
here.
apparently I got all my people with me. Let's start with S&M. And now, what's up, love?
Nothing much, just chilling. And no, I did not go to happy hour today. That was yesterday. Although I must admit, I may have indulged just a little bit more than I should have because a sister did not wake up feeling well this morning. But you got to keep it moving.
Aww. Well, hey, now we happy that you joined us. You know what I'm saying? That you're with us. You know what I'm saying? You look good. You feeling good. Sound good. You know what I'm saying? Turn down for what? You know what I mean? Got my man Just Jay. You know what I'm saying? There's more to it, but he's, it's Just Jay for now. Jay, what's happening?
Yeah. No, so I had to completely move away from my Just Jay. I'm embracing my Mr. Goodwoods. Y'all can call me Mr. G for those of y'all who feel like pauses are necessary every time. So that's cool. I ain't trying to stop the flow, but I'm excited to be here, man. We got great things popping. Look over my shoulder. You see, is that a Goodwoods behind me? It is. Look at that. So yeah, man, we having a great time here tonight. It's only pop. Oh, let me bring it closer, S&M. I see
S&M couldn't see it. Yeah, she's trying to see it.
She couldn't see it. There it is. Inside, there's the Goodwood there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So y'all be sure to check out the site. You know what I'm talking about? We live. We ready for you. So great things popping, man. I told y'all this year is gonna be great, and it's already starting. Man, it's great. I'm ready.
Yes, Goodwoods. Hey, go out there and get you some. Del, the expert. What's happening, man?
Here, man. Hey, it's been a busy week in the world. We got a lot of good topics to talk about. It's been crazy, and you know what? We are all here. We are all healthy, mostly, and we're good to go. We're good to go, and we're toxic, and it's gonna be wild. We got some spicy stuff on the docket today.
Yes. Well, listen, man, I'm good. I'm great. I'm fantastic. I went back to watch Game of Thrones. Everybody Game of Thrones fans here? Everybody Game of Thrones fans here? Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, it's the one takeaway I'll just leave out with this is oftentimes like Game of Thrones is a work of art unto itself, right? All 8 seasons is available for you to watch. But watching it the second or third or however many times this is, it hit different. You ever go back and watch something and it hit different? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's like different themes that really resonate with me in a different way that it didn't before. Am I the only one that had that experience where it's like you go back, you watch the same movie, but like you catch different things hit differently, right? Am I the only one?
No, that happens. I think it happens with books, movies, pretty much anything as you grow. I think you digest and process it differently. You filter it differently. So you see it.
Right? And I think the conclusion I drew, or that I kind of already knew, was that oftentimes it's not the thing, it's the us that shows up to the thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that kind of is what it reminded me of. Like, for right now, I feel like I'm in my Daenerys, you know what I'm saying, phase of my life right now. You know what I'm saying? 7 Kingdoms type of time. You know, so when I watch her arc in the story, talking about getting anywho's man, y'all ain't come here to watch no recap or no throwback from Game of Thrones 6 years ago. But it is good though, watching it the second time around. But other than that, man, let's get to the conversation because I'm here to chop it up with y'all, to pod with y'all. S&M, what we talk about?
Right,
I feel like
low key, I was gonna be a little toxic with you and was like, well, according to recent whatever posting, you could get in your bag with Daenerys Stormborn because conception, we're all females at this point. So, but anyways, with that being said, I'm looking forward to seeing you cosplaying one day. And
I did have 3 babies. I did have three dragons, by the way. That's kind of what made me think about it, right? Because I launched like iHeart Medellin Travel, and then I have Seamless Cosmetic, right? And I got Ancient Investments. I'm like, oh my God, look at me, my 3 dragons. You know what I'm saying? Like,
look at it, bring it full circle. Get that plug. I love it. So speaking of plugs, somebody had issues with their spark plugs, suspension, as well as any other thing that you could think of on a small car. So let's go ahead and jump right into our first topic, which is Dank DeMoss. I don't even know that's how you pronounce her name because I feel like Dank.
It's Dank.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So Dank DeMoss versus Lyft, the Lyft driver. So if you haven't seen this has been making some rounds in the news because apparently she is suing Lyft because her 489-pound self was basically denied service by a Lyft driver. And according to the video, he claimed that his suspension would not be able to take her and his tires were tired. And with that being said, I'm just curious as to what are your take what are your take on this? Is she right to sue Lyft? And by the way, the driver was fired, just as a FYI.
Oh,
But was
damn.
she
See, that's
within her
wrong.
rights to sue Lyft,
No,
or
no.
was it a heavy lift and she really needed a forklift? But
All right.
Okay, let me stick a fork in that before we get body shamed or some shit. So that was a
Well, we are
terrible
here to
pun.
fat shame. Some of us
We
are
are
here
here
to
to
fat
fetch.
shame. But go
So
ahead.
well,
Go
let's. So here's my take on it. I'm going to be as diplomatic as possible. Okay. So first, a little background. Dank is a rapper trying to get her start out there. You know what I'm saying? She was on Miss Deb's house or something like Waka Flocka's mom had a show. So she been trying to launch. Her weight has been a problem for her even then. That's why I'm bringing it up. You know what I mean? When she was on the show, y'all, I don't know if y'all watch the show. I think it's on Prime or something. But she was on the show, right? And they do the part at the end where they always like have you that you stand up and they tell you, who's staying, who's going, the good stuff, bad stuff, right? She was sitting down for that part. So what I'm telling you is this. She has been navigating her weight her whole life, okay? She This weight is not new to her, okay? So let me ask you, Miss Dank, have you ever bought anything that was like compact, small, or just a large? I doubt it, right? Everything you bought was extra large or custom made. So if you didn't order extra large Uber, that's on you, right? If you didn't order Uber XL, that's on you, ma'am. You shouldn't be suing them. Now you're gonna buy small stuff. Okay, that's not right. What I'm saying though is, the person's car is their livelihood. Okay, no professional takes a job in any sort of industry. It takes a contract, knowing that that contract is going to tear up your equipment, so you can't take another contract afterwards. That's dumb. So when he looked at her and he was like, "No, my car ain't built for this. You should have called it XL." That he was right. She should not sue. It's ridiculous. That's my take on it.
Okay.
okay,
Anybody else want to get in there?
I
What fat
think
shaming? No.
Yeah, no pushback from me. I don't think it was his car that said, me may have or inarticulately tried to say, oh, this is the reason why I can't do it. But the point of it is physics said you can't get in the car. I mean, you're a woman of a certain girth and you need a Uber XL or whatever the Lyft equivalent of that is. You know that. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
she was gambling that the guy would come in a F-150. I mean, I don't know, but I think because the guy's an independent contractor, I think it was really really shitty that he had to lose his job because he just couldn't take her, or maybe his suspension really is bad. I don't know, but I think the suing is really to kind of maybe get Lyft out there, and then they're gonna try to settle and make her go away. Like, look, here's some money, just go away and leave us alone. I think that's probably how it's gonna turn out. But I'm wondering, and if anybody got any legal expertise, could he sue Lyft for wrongful termination? Like, what would the basis be? We fired you because your customer wouldn't fit in your car. I'd love to know if you guys' thoughts on that.
Oh, listen, I'll just, first of all, there's a lot of at will shit going on, right, in this country, number one. And then when you start thinking about independent contractors, I don't know how much legal protections. I mean, I'll be honest, like even the whole thing about suing discrimination, being fat is not covered. Sorry, y'all. Like even the stuff that's covered, like race, marital
It's not a
status, like
protected class.
those
It's
things
not a
are
protected.
under scrutiny already as it is, and you think you're gonna get fat as one of those things, right? I mean, you might get some support across the aisle. There's a lot of fat Americans out there, so maybe. But I was like, girl, where? Right? Because I mean, listen, when you get on the flight, do they reserve the right to be like, nah, sis, you got to book a second ticket? You know what I'm saying? Because like those seats are like finite for real, for real. You know what I'm saying? I get a chance to see the car. You know what I mean? The way it played out, it sounded like Buddy like didn't even try to attempt. He saw her and was like, "Oh hell no!" And then it's like, "Hey, where you going?" So maybe the way he handled it wasn't the most professional. I mean, I'm not sure where in the manual of how to deal with girls who are too big to get your back seat is, right? Nor I don't know if it's on Lyft now to put a weight requirement. Like, hey, listen, we reserve the right that if you're for a certain poundage that we got to back up off you. I mean, if she's almost 500 pounds, that's almost a quarter of a ton if my math is mathing. You know what I'm saying? Like, at least give me the option to charge a triple. If he had the option to get surge pricing, would he be like, all right, fuck it, I'm gonna risk the tires on this? He did an ROI. He was like, risk analysis, a risk assessment. And it was like, nah, we're not gonna survive. You know what's even worse? What if they were going across town and shit, like a 40-minute drive?
Like, I'm already on the east, sis. I can't help you.
But I'll close with this. Listen, we live in a litigious United States of America, so anybody can sue for anything. If Shorty can not only get a couple of dollars and get her name out there, because nobody clearly was checking for her rap career. I mean, I'd love to see what her stage presence was like, but nonetheless, right? You know what I'm saying? She go, oh. Anyways, if she can get what she can get, I'm not mad at it. I do understand that, you know, Lyft got to do what they got to do, but unfortunately, man, we live in a dog-eat-dog world. What you want? What you want from me? What you want?
I'm just gonna say I'm with the driver, because if you saw the video, the car was already barely an inch off the ground. It was already a low riding car, and if you put all this weight on either one or the other side of the car, then I wouldn't be surprised if the car was dragging. And as somebody who was relatively plus in their vehicle, in a small car a long time ago when I was back in college, she actually messed up my car, because when she got out, she had to hold the handle to pull herself out of the car. She ripped the damn handle off. And so I'm just saying that, and not only that, the car was leaning this way the whole time. So in her videos that she was doing with her rap videos, it always was in an SUV, right? As a matter of fact, she was on, I want to say, in the trunk of the SUV, basically. And so it's like, ma'am, you doing videos in the trunk of the SUV, and you really thought you were going to get in the backseat of this car, of this little bitty, I think he had a Honda Civic. And so the vehicle I had a long time ago was a Sentra. And so I understand his pain, because I unmistakably didn't think it was a big deal, because I was not car savvy, was not aware of the limitations of my very own vehicle. And I ended up having to come out my pocket, because I didn't want to go ask her, like, yo, by the way, you ripped that off. Can you pay for it? And because I felt like I wanted to be sensitive to the fact that she was plus. And so I'm just going to say that I think this lawsuit is frivolous, but it's doing what she wants, which is getting her a name recognition, i.e. brand recognition. And I think she's borrowing a playbook from no good, all bad press is still good press, or something, whatever the hell the phrase is. And so she's working to her advantage. They probably will pay out something. I don't know what it is, but I think it'll be if he countersued her, that would be very interesting indeed, because he can sue her for loss of wages, because he was an independent contractor. And since I'm just saying,
This is what's wrong with black people, man. We think we can just sue for anything.
I'm just saying, if she's gonna sue based on the fact that she knew damn well she needed a Yukon XL, then he can probably sue for loss of wages.
Y'all are bugging. Y'all forgot the lady who got burnt by the hot coffee. She still won her freaking case, y'all. Like she won some bread.
That was in the beginning. Okay, the Gorilla Glue girl had a little time making her thing stick. No pun intended.
Yeah, but this is the first fat case that we have, bro. So maybe this is like a landmark. You know what I'm saying?
She's like a trailblazer.
And I think your example, Nick, was really good too. What if it was an airline? You can't sue the airline because they make you buy a ticket.
You can sue, y'all. Like, I mean, you can listen.
You can sue.
They have,
can't win.
Airliners. Yeah. They have sued the airlines for having to get to buy an extra ticket and the seatbelt extenders. And that's another thing. He probably didn't have a seatbelt extender in his car. So if they got into a car accident, he's liable for that.
That's a good point.
Actually, I'd say that. No, I don't know. She's like a built-in airbag back there, right? He got into a car accident. Nobody's moving in the car.
Wow, I have no words. I was not expecting that.
Okay, and you officially lost the Toxic Olympics.
So I'm going to pass this shirt to because I was not expecting that. is completely out of the blue for safety purposes. And please note the disclaimer at the top of the show. So for safety purposes, this was also a situation where would Lyft have paid his insurance? Would they have, if they got into an accident, would he now have to pay, would his insurance have to pay her out because of her sitting in the back seat and couldn't have a suit belt? I don't know. It felt to me like it was all type of safety issues, and he did the right thing for himself, and hopefully it comes back full circle. No pun intended on the circle.
I ain't
Listen,
trying to
man.
drag it. I got a quick question though. What
Yeah,
city
go
were
ahead.
they in? Were they like in Detroit? No, she's a Detroit rapper. Was she in Detroit at the time? Or was she like in? But the only
I
reason I
think they
asked
were in
because
Detroit because she was taking the Lyft to go to a Lions watch party, watch the
yeah,
game.
so
Yeah.
that only happens in Detroit. Yeah, so I'm just playing. I'm just playing these jokes. These just jokes. Anyway, but my point is, if the infrastructure in Detroit is poor, right?
The
They got
potholes.
piping problems and potholes, right? You know what would happen to his car if he hit a pothole with her in the back seat?
No, he's done.
They're all dead. Whole car. Everybody go.
Listen, man. This is actually perfect. Right. So first of all, I'm gonna be accountable because well, I mean, that's for opening up the floodgates. You know what I'm saying? On the fat shaming, right? Secondly, Shorty needs to be accountable too, right? Jay, you were talking about she was on somebody's show. If her career has not progressed, and this is what it's come to, at some point in time, she has to recognize that maybe she's the one standing in her own way. You know what I'm saying? And just for health reasons, forget her career, for other reasons, like she has to be accountable for how she moves through life, literally, right? And so now she's putting that off on somebody else. I'm just saying people can sue for whatever. That's just the world that we live in. But we all can be accountable for how we choose to move, which is a perfect opportunity to segue to this next topic. You know what I'm saying? I'll be accountable for being a little toxic. You know, but so this next topic reaches near and dear to my heart. I feel like there's a problem, y'all, when it comes to accountability. And let me tell you, for example, what I mean by that. Like, have you ever been a dude and you're in a relationship with somebody, and if you dread, or if you know, no matter how you try to put the truth because you're looking for resolution, that is going to be a problem, that you're going to have to deal with the maelstrom of energy, no matter how you put it, people will be like, oh, it's your tone. No, it's not. People will grasp at whatever. You can wrap this shit up in the prettiest of fucking bows. Hey, listen, I think that there's some areas that we can certainly, like, you damn near gotta fuck. But my point is, if you've been in that situation, then you should know exactly what I'm talking about. I think people who would respond in a negative way to constructive criticism, for example, is a sign of lacking accountability. Like, you know that any mention of anything that might be construed as being constructive or criticism is going to be a problem. And honestly, I think that is becoming an issue. It's a big issue in our community, for real, right? Whether it's platonic relationships, whether it's romantic relationships, whether it's business relationships. I feel like people just are in their my truth, my world, my fantasy, my delusion, and are adverse to accountability. Now, I know we're going to gender war it a little bit, right? Because I guess part of the question could be is, do you think that men and women approach accountability different? You know, if so, why, for example, right? But the first question I really want to ask, though, and this is for real, do y'all think that we have an accountability problem in our community? And by problem, I mean, yes, you know, maybe generally speaking, everybody's maybe a certain level of, you know, not being accountable, but to the point where it's like detrimental to our future, detrimental to our existence, right? Whether it's together, whether it's individual. Do you think that the lack of accountability rises to the problem that we need to sound the alarms, just like they try to do with like climate change? That's my first question for y'all.
I say yes. I say yes because I'll make it short. I say yes because in order for society to be cohesive, you have to be accountable to somebody. There has to be somebody that you represent for, that you stand for, that you are reflecting. You have no man's an island. You have to feel tied to somebody in the community. Somebody has to have some sort of value in how you present. If you're going to participate in that community, if nobody has any value to you in that community, you are that makes you accountable to their uh, reaction to whatever you do, then you're not really in that community. You're just messing around in that community. So to bring it home to Black people, I think that our real problem is we're like, and some of my favorite songs are like, you know, who's like Sorry with Ti and Andre 3000. Great song, right? And the song's like, who Who should I be sorry to? Like, who should I apologize to? I'm living my life. That's a recurring theme in our culture, right? We have been struggling to express ourselves individually and collectively and to find our identity. And the problem is like, in order to find our individual identity, we have to abandon our collective identity. And so, in being true to ourselves, as Nick was saying, now we're not accountable to anybody around us. But if everybody's doing that, then, like I said, there's no cohesion, and we're not a community. We're just a bunch of individuals in one space. So that's my part.
So I want to go ahead and concur that yes, we do have an accountability issue in our community. And I think part of it, like if we look at individual accountability, so first there's this big whole, and I'll wait to talk about the gender war aspect of it, but there's this whole big um I'm not pointing fingers, right? Blaming each other versus blaming or taking accountability for yourself. And as an example, with Dank, as an example, like she knew her position, she well aware of her health, she's well aware of her size, but instead of taking accountability, she chose to pass that on to somebody else. And I actually wonder if it was, in addition to being, a legal scheme, perhaps. But I also wonder, well, technically, where was her own thought process for her healthy decisions? Like so we make bad decisions in life, but instead of saying, oh wait, I made that bad decision, we're going to say, oh, this person or this thing or this event caused me to make this bad decision, without taking full ownership. And that translates, so we can't even take accountability for ourselves, then we're definitely not going to take accountability for the community. And that's why we find ourselves in the state that we're currently in, because we've moved so far from accountability to self that there's no way in hell we can operate from it takes a village concept and take accountability or be held responsible for as a community as a whole, right? That's why we don't have collective economics. That's why we don't have cohesion in a lot of aspects of our life. And while in your individual circles, because some people may say, I don't know what she's talking about. Well, in your individual circle, cool. Guess what? Your individual circle is just that, your individual circle, which means, once again, that's your primary focus. And that's fine. But it's, once again, that circle is within the community. And if you can't see past your circle, then that's a problem too.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I mean, I think the lack of accountability comes from this whole moral relativism standpoint that we have. Like nobody can tell me anything. It's back to the whole my truth. We've got to have some type of standard, and there's no shame in people holding you accountable. And the thing with especially with men is life is going to hold you accountable real fast. Life tells you where you stand. Like you don't measure up for this, you don't measure up for that. I don't get to say, well, this is my truth. Like, no, your truth is the results. So even in the whole, well, I have my truth, whether it's men or women doing it, and I'm gonna all lives matter that life is going to tell you, life is going to hold you accountable. There is an objective reality, whether you want to believe it or not. When on this topic, I've always said it's like the speed of light or gravity. You don't have to believe in it for it to work. It works all the same. So you, we can not like accountability, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen either whether you believe in it or not. So you might as well just accept it, learn from it as soon as possible, and let's move forward, because that's the only way you're going to get any different outcome. So it really comes down to, if you want the same outcomes you're getting, okay, well then let's don't be accountable. Keep doing what you're doing, and that extends from the personal level all the way up to the community level. Because as you pointed out, if we can't hold each other accountable or speak truth to each other and receive it in good faith, then it's not really a community, just a bunch of people hanging out that look like each other. That's my 2 cents.
Yes. It's funny because I took it. I love that y'all brought it or broadened it, right, in regards to the community aspect. Because I guess I realized as I was talking that I wasn't even really talking about the black community part. Like I was talking about it as it relates to when we talk about the black community, we're talking about black people. But to your point, there's a lot of things that are happening that doesn't really show that we're a community beyond just saying it, like in these conversations, for example, right? And then if you want to get more granular, we all have our individual communities that we're a part of, right? Different cities. So maybe that's a little bit different. But the way I was kind of thinking about it was just the function of a society, right? Like being able to progress, being able to do things. So even before we get to the community level, it's like voting. If we're not, we can't hold the people who didn't vote accountable. Like, how would we do that? We're not really a community with them. You know what I'm saying? But each of us may have our own responsibility to voting, right? And maybe we hold ourselves to account for that and people within our circles, that kind of a thing, right? So it just may not be like widespread from a community standpoint, but there are things that those of us who I think are trying to function in a productive, healthy way would say these are the goalposts that we would put up to say, okay, yes, I'm participating in a legit kind of way, right? But I feel like when you was talking about like Dank, for example, S&M, that's a perfect example because like she's taking an offensive action because she felt offended, right? What I mean by that is, she's the one filing the case or whatever. But again, like every step that led to that ride, she made choices along the way, right? And so I think this is to me, it's an extreme example of how people not being accountable to themselves can cause society to have an issue, right? Because everybody sat here and talked to me and mentioned how it's messed up the guy got let go, right? But this is kind of the society that we're into. So there's consequences when people are moving through the world and not holding themselves to account, right? And I think that's the other way I was looking at it from a community standpoint, right? Like people who are just moving in such a way that they completely lack regard for how irresponsible they're moving can affect other people. But I did have a question though, right? Because I feel like before we delve any deeper, what is to hold someone accountable, right? Because for example, if I'm not in community with you, then how are you going to hold me accountable? That's number one. So I think there's a difference between like the Black people, this is good for conversation shit, versus the people you're in community with, right? Because maybe some of those people, because you have a relationship, there's something that you can lose from the relationship. So what is accountability? What does it kind of look like, and who can actually hold you to account, right? Because I think that is part of it too, right? So that's my question to everybody.
So I will say this. I'm going to speak on a very personal level first and put it this way. So in my household, I have a husband and a child, right? It's my responsibility to hold them accountable, just as I expect my husband to hold me accountable for any actions that I may have taken. But I'm going to put it, and so it's two different type of how you hold people accountable. So if it's a child relationship as an example, or somebody who you're mentoring or something like that, there can actually be what we call reward and punishment or consequences and so forth based on the type of behavior that they're exhibiting that you hold them accountable to. But when it's a relationship wise, be it either friendship, partnership, husband and wife, then that accountability look like telling them the truth about what they're doing, how it may affect you, how it may affect them. And then there may be conversations, because ultimately I think our goal, especially in a relationship, like I said, I'm going to use myself personally, is to grow and evolve together so that we can be held accountable for our vision and dream in the household to get us from point A to point B, so to speak. And so if I'm not doing my part, then that means it affects the structure of the household. It affects how we're going to get to the next step. It has the potential to affect my son or our son. And so I think that individual wise is basically standing on your truth, but also making sure your partner is standing on their truth and you're holding them accountable that way. So that's the way I view it, as far as using myself as an example, because sometimes when we have these conversations about how do you hold somebody accountable, like let's say outside your house, so there's things that you can do and they may not view as being held accountable. Like I may have a friend who's moving sideways or dirty, and we talked about this previously in another episode where like, I don't want to use cheating as an example, but like just being a shitty ass person. And you say, hey, you've been a shitty ass person. And they may say, well, that's just how I am. That's where I am right now. Well, then you have the choice to remove yourself from that situation because you've already informed them what they're doing. And now it's up to them to either take account and a responsibility for being that shitty ass person and decide if they want to change or not, and they choose not to change, then that's how you make your decision based on your actions to determine how you're going to interact with them from here on out, or if you're going to interact, period. So that's the consequences of the action.
Hmm. Okay, I agree with everything S&M said. I don't think there's any pushback for me there. I think I want to kind of expand and contract real quick. I want to expand to a point, kind of touching on something Nick said earlier, and that is we can't really like in the situation with the lady in the car, and in any situation you find where there's conflict, we can always point at the other person and go, if they hadn't done this, we wouldn't be here. Or we could always look back at our last decision that we made and go, well, how could I have pivoted here to be a different result? And so that's my zoom out. My zoom in here is you can't change people. We can't make people be who we want them to be. We can't make them do what we want them to do. We can't expect them to be who they say they are, though. We can do that. That's not unfair. That is fair. And that's where, Nick, you asked, where does accountability start, or what is accountability? Accountability is holding a person to who they said they were. So for instance, if I'm married and my wife do some slick stuff that don't look like what my wife should be doing, I should be able to hold her accountable. Say, listen, you said you were my wife. You said being my wife shows up like this. I could expect this and this and this from you. You haven't done this, or you have done this, or whatever the case may be. I'm holding you accountable because I'm measuring you up against who you told me you were. That's what I'm saying. And I think there's not enough of that. People go, oh, well, I was triggered, or I was in my feelings, or I blacked out, or they got, people have a bunch of reasons why they act uncharacteristically, but we shouldn't factor that into their character. But the fact of the matter is, when you conduct yourself in a way that's incongruent, it doesn't match up with who you said you are, somebody should tell you, listen, bruh, either change the sign or change what's in the package. That's accountability.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, to SNL's point, that may me accountability may be just getting the hell away from you. Okay, well, look, this the accountability is me not being anywhere near you, in anywhere near your influence, anywhere in your space. That's the accountability. Because, like I said, people are going to be who they are, and once people tell you who they are, and you still deal with them anyway, then that's on you. Because at that point, you're faulting someone for being themselves, and that's a problem on its own. So the holding people accountable is, you know what? I'm not going to deal with you. I'm not going to do business with you. I'm not going to interact with you. I'm just going to completely remove you from existence as far as I'm concerned. So that's the accountability. I think for the most part, unless you're paying them, that's all you can do. It's just don't deal with them.
So, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay,
No, go ahead.
so I said I wanted to start off with the individual perspective. And Nick, I don't want to step on your toes or anything, but I also want to switch to the global perspective that I had as well. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah.
so globally, what this looked like. So the first thing is I want to give an example. So with the elections that just occurred, and there all the protesting and so forth, particularly with the women rights and whatnot. As an example, there's this whole mantra of Black women are resting, Black women are sitting out, and you people go talk to your people to get them back on track. And then the holding accountable in this particular case for not only that, but let's talk about the immigrations where Hispanics voted at, I think it was 50% with Latino men as an example. And now they're being told, oh, your abuela no está aquí. Gotta go. Vamos. And so now it becomes, oh, snap. I wasn't thinking about my grandparent or whatever the case may be. And what you're finding is a lack of sympathy because that's their way of holding them accountable. Like, hey, you voted for this. You're getting exactly what you wanted. And now you need to stand by that decision of what you want. So that's one example of holding someone accountable, even though it may not be the way someone would want them to be held accountable. It's like, no, stand in your decision. You were an adult, you made that choice, and now you got to live with that decision and the ramifications and consequences that come from that. And we're just going to sit back and watch, where's our popcorn type deal. But then the other side of accountability, right? And when I say the other side, still accountability, but it's another mechanism. I agree with Devin. Why the hell we don't shame people no more? Like, can we bring back shaming? Like, what's wrong with shaming people? We got to the point where we're so politically correct about certain things that we're like, and I'm sorry to use her as an example, but the whole body shaming, how you mentioned earlier, well, let's not be concerned about body shaming, but it's like, fuck, it's not body shaming, it's health shaming. We are concerned for your health, ma'am. We want you to be healthy, and anybody that tell you you can be that big and be healthy is a lie. They are lying to themselves, they're lying to their friend, and they're lying to anybody else who's listening within listening distance that you can be healthy at that size. And so bring back shaming. Sometimes shaming works. Now, don't bring back the scarlet letter, but let's bring back some form of shame and put it back in our culture as a whole. Because if we actually were shaming people, then people will be more likely to make certain decisions and be more conscientious of their decision. So body shaming, I don't think it's body shaming in this case. It's like, no, ma'am, we're concerned about your health. And please, please, ma'am, get some help.
So I'm kind of confused. You're saying we should be shaming, but then you're running away from the fat shaming. Which one is it? You gonna stand on your 10 on this one or no? You
So
either gonna
this
fat
right
shame
here,
her
I
or
am
you go.
standing on my 10.
Which one?
I'm
She's
not
saying it's a
calling
different kind of
it
shaming.
body shaming. I
Huh?
said exactly.
It's health
I
shaming.
said
Yes, it's a different kind of
it's
shaming.
right. I'm saying we're
Ah,
not shaming you for your body per se. We're shaming you for you being out of shape and your health, not
that's
taking into
cap. That's
consideration your
cap.
health.
That's cap. She couldn't get in
Hey,
the
I'm
car because of
putting
her body. The dude wasn't sitting there
because
thinking,
of the
I'm
choices
gonna
that
drive
she
off
made for
because you're
her
gonna have a
health.
heart attack in my back seat. That's not what
She
happened.
probably
You
could have a
literally,
heart attack
I
in
mean,
his back seat, though. You never know. Silent
I'm,
killer.
I'm just on the one hand, you're saying we should bring it back. I'm just trying to encourage you to live in your truth, sis. If you want a fat shame, just call it what it is and live in your truth.
It's no, I'm saying shaming in general. Like, let's bring back shaming. You know what I'm saying?
'Cause-
We got little
Okay,
girls talking
okay.
about they want to be strippers when they grow up now. And it was like, why the
Mm.
hell you want to be a stripper? Usually being a stripper was, and now in this case,
Hold on, man.
sex
Hold
work
on,
is
man.
still
Hold
work,
on.
right?
Hold
I'm
on.
just,
Hold on.
hey,
We're veering way the fuck far off of what? How does
She's
this is
what
getting
does
her
just
that
another
mean?
shame
form
game
of
on. She's
shaming.
getting her
What I'm
shame game on.
saying
She started
is
with the fat
that
people and the
there are
healthy.
certain
Now she's going to
things. So I'm
strippers.
saying it's not just,
We're
I'm
going
not
So
into
just fat
politics.
shaming, is what I'm saying. Just bring back shaming in general about certain
Yeah.
behavior that should be looked upon and frowned upon, is what I'm saying.
I hear you, right? Okay. We were talking about accountability. So the only way that kind of makes any sense to me is whether or not we think that shaming could be a tool to hold people to account, right? Cool. But I just want to connect that dot. That's not because I
Yes.
feel like we was going somewhere else, right? But even with that being said, because I didn't get a chance to answer my own question, I guess, in regards to what accountability is. And I think you guys kind of hit it in terms of to hold someone to account, right? Like, in other words, what it really sounds like it boiled down to me was if I cannot adversely affect you, whether it's by withdrawing my presence or my business or whatever, then can I really hold you accountable? Delvin said that, hey, I could just move around, right? And I kind of agree with that, right? Because if you're talking about the individual experience, like you did something to me, and now I want to hold you accountable for that, right? So maybe I think most of us, this is what it looks like, because that's kind of the question I was asking. Hey, you did this thing to me, or you grieved me in this way. Now, somebody who is an accountable person might say, wow, I didn't know that. Really tell me more. Okay, cool. Wow, I totally did not know that. That was not my intent. If you took it that way, I just want you, that's not what it was. What can whatever, right? There's an approach I think a person can take. Now, what also typically happens is, what you mean? I did what? There's that defensive action. And then that person now is either going to escalate, going to diverge, right? So what I'm talking about is what does accountability look like in real time? Like the way that I've had to apply it within like the last 3 or 4 times, it's kind of looked like this, right? People, you'll approach someone about something that they did, and with the hoping to keep them to account, right? And I could also probably be perceived on the other side of this too. Like, let's be clear, because it's also about the perception of a lot, right? Because it's not as black and white for real, for real. A lot of this is subjective in terms of human behavior. So if I come to somebody and say, hey man, I got, you did this X, Y, and Z, I wasn't feeling that, or this needs to be changed. That person can, accept it, cool. But more often than not, people don't just simply accept it. It becomes something else, right? So for me, that's when the second option is, oh, okay, well, I've tried to resolve this with you and having conversation. Now, clearly it's not going to bring a resolution. I can no longer, maybe connect with you on the same level if it's business or otherwise. So maybe I then go to the Delvin option and be like, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and move back. Now, if that person doesn't give a fuck, right? Because I feel like when we talk about accountability, it's over fucking used, is what I'm trying to get at. A lot of us feel like we have way more power than we fucking do for real, for real. We think that, right? That's the thing. I feel like when you were talking about your part, like, let's say if you didn't vote for Trump, and now you're looking at the people voting for Trump, who voted for Trump, and is wham-whamming about their nannies, right? And you're thinking, haha, I'm going to laugh at you and hold you accountable for that. I don't buy that. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's your attempt to try to feel better about you being mad about their choice. They still got to deal with the repercussions. And yeah, they may be well-aware about it, but is that you holding that specific person accountable without give a fuck about your opinion, for example? Right?
So I would
Right?
say
Or
if there
that was
is
a rhetorical question, man. That was rhetorical. That was rhetorical.
hey, it
I
was a
see you.
pause.
I see. I can't even. You can't even know what that's a hell today, right? So the point, the thing, because the crux of it, this is what people may feel uncomfortable about, is the truth is that really is about the extent that you can hold anyone accountable. Is how you can adversely affect them from making a choice or doing things or making decisions that you don't like. That's about it. Like if you're ever like online, the reason why people can talk the way they can talk is because they don't feel like you can hold them accountable. Like you can't reach out over the internet to stop me from talking all the shit that I want to talk about you and your mama, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why people move on the internet the way that they do, because they don't feel like they can be held accountable, right? It wasn't until recently where Karens were being held to account because people were catching them on camera. It would cost them their job. That was, oh shit, maybe we should start caring less a little bit, right? So, I mean, I do think there's varying levels, but it's all about the impact that a person can make from making a decision, like cancel culture, right? But the problem is that most people think they got more power than they really do have, for real, for real. You know what I'm saying? People don't want to get down to the point of leverage. Because even in a relationship, Jay, you talk about marriage, man, women, like sometimes a person can still have leverage, and regardless of how you try to hold them to account, they can still be like, and what? Right? Like, what you gonna do? Right? And you're gonna be there all shit-faced because not only did they agree with you, but you can't even hold them accountable. Right? So I wanted to distill what the fuck accountability really is. Because we make it seem like, oh, it's about nah, man, it's a power play. It's about leverage, right? It's about being able to hold someone to account. And I feel like right now, a lot of us feel like we got way more power to do that than we really do. That's why I feel like it's overused. You know what I'm saying? And then that's on the outside. I haven't even begun to talk about the detriment of not being accountable has to the individual. So maybe that'll be the next question I ask y'all, right? Right? Because I think the irony of it is, right, even though it's inflated in terms of our ability to hold people to account, right? But it's probably the most important thing that an individual can have within themselves. You know what I'm saying? Do y'all agree or disagree? And if so, why? Right? I'm saying that I think the ability to hold oneself accountable, right, is probably one of the most important things that a person needs to have about themselves, to be in anything positive, great, or otherwise. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think that I think we'd be hard pressed to find somebody who would disagree. I like to say every man has to have a code, but men are the only people who need a code or need some paradigm that they view the world through, that they process, and this is how they make their decisions and their principles. Like you got to have something, you got to have some sort of standard, otherwise you won't have any direction in life. You know what I mean? You'll just move with whatever the easiest path of least resistance is, and you know what I mean. Before you know it, you're just being used by everybody because everybody else has a plan, but you don't because you don't have a code. So you just go with whatever works. So I do hear what you're saying about accountability. And I want to add on to this and let them answer the other question. In answer to like where it comes from, I want to add on, I think it comes from regard, right? Because Devin talked about you can leave a person. You can only leave a person and they care if they have any regard for you. You can only chastise a person if they have any regard for you. You can only praise a person if they have regard for you, right? I think a lot of times what people are finding, Nick, and I think this is probably a good example, and I think you're alluding to it, is they're running up on people trying to check them, and the person has no regard for them. And then they're like, you know, you're not taking accountability. What they're really trying to say is, I'm not taking accountability for you because I don't regard you as somebody who can hold me or check me or say, tell me anything. You have nothing that you can take from me. And you don't have anything worth giving me that I really got to bend over backwards for. Then you get to that point. Yeah, go ahead.
No, before you go, S&M or Delvin, since we all probably agree, right, that yes, we should all be accountable. I guess to move it further a little bit, then why aren't more people? If we all know it's something that we should be, that is beneficial to us, then why is it, and I would even venture to say a majority of people, I'll put a number on like 80% of people, all right, are not really accountable in a way that they should be. That has benefit. I'll say 80 if I had to put a number on it. So if we all know we should be, then why aren't we? If I think 4 out of 5 people aren't accountable for real.
Because they soft, goo. They soft.
S&M?
Yeah, I think it touches on people are generally going to take the path of least resistance. It's like I'm not going to go. I know I'm girthy of a certain size. Like the young lady was, and instead of like I'm aware of this. I'm going to hold myself accountable. I'm going to get in the gym. Like no, I'm going to blame the guy with the small car. It's his fault. And it's too easy. We've made it too easy and too socially acceptable to blame your shit on other people. That's why I hold myself accountable. Why have this painful internal monologue when I can just blame Mr. Goodwood for my misfortune. If he didn't do what he was doing, then I wouldn't have to hold myself accountable because that's more painful. And people like to avoid pain. I think it's as simple as that. But You can't cheat the system. Life is going to hold you accountable. You know, like in Lay's case, you know, she might have gotten away with this. She might get the, you know, get the payout from Lyft, and it might be a successful lawsuit. But you know who's going to hold her accountable? Her blood pressure, diabetes. That's going to hold you accountable. You're not getting around this. That's my 2 cents.
So I agree with everything you said. As a matter of fact, I was going to say that it's just easier now for people not to hold themselves accountable because it's easier to point the finger at somebody else. Because if we think about how society is built, we're always saying, well, I only did this because this happened. If we look at the US in particular and how people are blaming others for them having less. And so it's just acceptable. We've made it acceptable not to hold oneself accountable, you know. And I do actually agree with the whole, if someone don't give a F about you, it's like on the internet and so forth, then you aren't holding that person accountable. It is an illusion for someone to say, oh, ha, ha, ha. I actually did care that folks are being deported, but there are folks on the internet who felt like this was just desserts for them, right? And they feel like by them not caring is holding that person accountable. And so, but as you all mentioned, it's the regard that matters. If they don't know you or even care. So ultimately the answer is yes, it's easy now. Is we encourage it, as a matter of fact, and in some cases we reward it. We reward it with frivolous lawsuits, rewarding frivolous lawsuits. We reward it with saying, hey, we're going to double down on deeds and actions that's going to hurt other people because we pointed the blame at them, you know. And so that's why.
And I think what you just said, I think that's probably the most important missed point, is the lack of accountability is rewarded in a way that it hadn't been probably in most of human history. I mean, what do you think about me?
No, you said it's been rewarded.
Yeah.
I,
Lack of
I'm
accountability is rewarded today in a way
oh,
that I think it hasn't been in most of recorded history.
I'm so glad you said that, right? Because I was about to say, you know, we did a great job in having this conversation about accountability, and we really didn't even have to go in the gender war direction because I was like, you know what, I'm cool with bounce passing it to the next topic. But then I was like, wait a minute, right? Because if you're talking about being rewarded for lack of accountability, bro, I saw this one young lady, she had like 9 million followers. And her body, like she called herself plus size, but like in the comment section, a lot of people were talking about how she probably had some type of like surgery or something like that. And it wasn't until like I read the comments first, then I went to her page, and so she had 9 million followers. And I thought to myself, y'all can say what the fuck y'all want to say about Shorty, but 9 million people fuck with it, or at least decided. So when you talk about being rewarded, right, for certain behavior, I think that's where the line kind of gets blurred a little bit, right? Because people will get blurred for certain things, which is why I'm gonna make a statement. And I guess, S&M, I want to ask you if you agree or disagree, and then I'm ask the fellas, right? And if I succinctly can say this, then maybe we can move on to the next topic. Or if we have some debate, we can move on. But I feel like it's only fair to ask you. My statement is as follows. I think that women are far less accountable when it comes to relationships than men are. I think that for whatever reason, women have probably been pedestalized in such a way that aside from the delusion that's been caused by said pedestalization, or whatever that word is, right, they also have been wired differently in such a way that their regard for men, even the ones in their lives, tend to be imbalanced versus the regard that he would have for her, particularly because men have been kind of conditioned also to hold you guys in a higher regard in the first place, which is why you guys end up being delusional. And then it becomes a more accountability and a vicious cycle. Do you agree with that comment, or do you disagree with that comment?
See, that's super loaded, and I'm gonna have to go with
Hold on,
there
the
is
whole fate.
some
The
there
whole
is
fate.
some truth, but it's not complete truth. Women actually do have some accountability. I will say, based on how you phrase this, though, I may need a rephrase because that was 100% loaded and
Okay,
full
okay, okay,
of
okay,
you were
okay.
leading the witness,
Okay,
basically.
okay. So do
You're
you
doing it
agree
right
that
now.
Sustain.
do you agree? Do you right?
Whatever. I answered the question initially. I said that there was some truth to that, but it was loaded.
Okay,
And
okay. Because
okay.
listen, we gotta move on, right? I'll just simply ask you, do you agree or disagree that in general, women are less accountable than men are when it comes to intergenderal relationships. Would you agree or disagree with that comment?
Let me
Girl, if you can't answer that one, that's not loaded. I done took a lot of.
You actually did a great job. That's why I said, let me think about this. Do I agree? If I'm thinking it through, if women,
it's a struggle. Huh?
Exhibit A.
I already knew you guys were going to say that. I already knew you guys were going to say that, so it's entertaining me. So I would say that it depends on the situation. Yes.
Okay. So, I want to move on because there's so much here that we can go down this road. But I want to flip it to a woman who sounds like she could probably hold herself accountable, because apparently we're not going to find that here in this conversation.
Hey, I said it depends on the situation. Is yes. So
I said in general, SNL.
Okay.
In general. The fact that you even had to think about it was a problem.
No, it was not a problem, because I felt like you was trying to.
It's not even that close. That's what I'm saying.
We need our viewers. We need our viewers to weigh in. Y'all tell us what y'all think. Because we feel like, I think the guys feel like S&M is exhibiting right now the lack of accountability that we say women have. So y'all let us know
in real time.
Let us know.
Y'all remember when I said, "Hey, it don't matter how nice you put it." So I had first said it one way, and then I remixed it the nicer way.
I said, yes, it depends on the situation. So moving to somebody who. Another woman in this situation, aka Sheryl Underwood, so we can move the conversation along. So Sheryl Underwood has apparently participated in an interview where she stated that she believes a man is the head of the household. No matter how much the woman makes, the man is still the head of the household. So I'm pretty sure I know the answer here on this particular panel. But let me go ahead and ask the question. Do you agree with her perspective?
Yes. I'm gonna go first on this one. Yeah. I do agree with her perspective. First of all, kudos to her, man. Like, hearing her talk, you know what I'm saying, just reminded me of a throwback. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know how people be on club, oh, that's a real woman right there. You know what I'm saying? Like, kudos to her, man. I missed hearing a woman's voice like that. You know what I mean? I know there's a lot of younger women out there doing their thing kind of in the same vein, but to hear from a true sis, you know what I'm saying, holding it down, expressing herself, because she essentially was recognizing that for her, the man is the head of the household regardless who makes more money or not. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could dig that. I mean, I get it's different. I know a lot of young women probably ain't feeling what she's talking about, right? But she, you know, when she was talking, like, she sounded like the type of woman who would empower her man regardless of who's making the bread. You know what I'm saying? At the same time, I think people hear that and they think that, oh, this man got to be a loser because he ain't making that bread. Nah, he could be a winner in so many other ways. And I feel like that's where a lot of people get misconstrued. So they hear Sheryl Underwood talk like that. I was like, yo, that's what's up. You know what I'm saying? The only thing that kind of took me back a little bit, though, was like, you know, I feel like if she was cuter, the message would resonate a little bit, right? Because I feel like, I was like I'm gonna keep it a buck. Okay, let's talk about it. Okay, because listen, of course, men gonna like the shit, right? Yay, that's what's up. But we're not the ones she need to reach, right? She got to reach the young women out there. And unfortunately, a lot of them gonna look at her like, oh, not the old busted bitch. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not gonna respect her. They're not gonna hold her in regard. We was just talking about that earlier, right? They're not gonna regard her as somebody that they should follow. I hate to say that. You dig what I'm saying? Because she doesn't present a certain type of way. Maybe because she's a, maybe old enough to be my mom at least, right? But for them, like, that's where the gap is, right? So I love that she said it. I'm like, but who is she speaking to? She's not speaking to me because I wouldn't give her no opinion. So she's not really like simping or being a pick-me for me. I'm not, no disrespect. She's probably married. Kudos to her and her husband. I was saying, like, when people have these conversations in the general space, right? We're going to talk a little bit more about simping and pick-me. But the point is like, I don't know who she's resonating with. If I'm also going to be lastly honest, I was surprised she was on Shay Shay. Like, is Shay Shay running out of guests? I mean, it's only January. She got a movie out. Is she running for something? I don't even know where her last project was. All I'm saying is, in this media space, apparently it's hard out here finding guests. He did interviewed everybody already. You know what he fired? He should interview Skip. That's a different subject for a different day.
Too soon.
Kudos to Sheryl I appreciate and yo, low key, she probably was fired back in the day, like way back in the day. But like right now, I don't even really see that resonate. And I like older women. And you know it's bad if I don't even want to hit it, right? It's whole shit.
No,
Well, I mean, I'm sorry. I'm gonna go back on mute.
Yeah, I think she's completely right. I mean, even with the provisioning aspect, if she's the primary breadwinner, that's just one aspect. Unless you believe men are just walking ATMs and wallets. I mean, there's the protection piece, uh, problem solving. There's much more, layers and many facets to being a man. The provision is just one of them, but it's the one that women tend to like to talk about and care about. So, but yeah, I think she's completely right. There's more to being the head of household than just the bread. I mean, that's important. I'm not saying that's not important, but there's definitely more to it than that. The same way there's more to your car than the engine. That's important. The engine's really important, but there's a lot more to it than that. That's my take.
I agree with that. I'll definitely agree with that. And I want to add on, I'll be brief. I thought back to the Willie Lynch letter, right? And if you're not familiar with it, Willie Lynch letter is a letter that was supposedly written by a white supremacist way, way back in the early annals of American history when they were trying to codify slavery and make it something they could keep going to generation to generation. One of the things he said that they had to do was they had to remove the black man from the family and then put the black woman in charge of the families. They would separate the families and send the bucks, as they called them, off somewhere. And the reason why I'm going to this historical whatever is because in that situation, there was no breadwinner, none, not the wife, not the husband. But yet, and still, in the designs of deconstructing the family and deconstructing the community and the unit of the people, they took the man out of his role as head of the household, right? So that role as head is significant, even when there's no money being moved around. There's still a role that's played, and that role was so significant that when someone set apart or set in their motion to undermine a whole ethnic class of people, race of people, they targeted that specific thing. So I think Cheryl's absolutely right. And I think that what a man brings to a relationship is far bigger than his pocket. His pocket is determined by who will hire him or who will pay for his services. A person can have a great product, they can have a great anything, and they can get blackballed and not be able to sell to anybody, or at least not be able to sell and move commercially in the same way they were before. Take Kanye and Kim, right? Kanye was balling, he was banking, he had all his money, and then Kim started making her money. And Kanye said some stuff, and he lost his money. And if they had still been together, would anybody have said that's a good? Now he needs to relinquish whatever leadership he has in the relationship because he got his contracts dropped, right? Does that change who he is as a man? So if we're going to put the person's worth in a relationship in the hands of someone else to determine what they're willing to pay that person as a salary for whatever they do, then now you're letting that person dictate who is in charge or who should take lead in your relationships. And that's ludicrous. It should never be based on money, because how you get money, it depends on who wants to give you money, who deems you and your product worthy of their funds. And if you're basing who's head of your household on somebody else's opinion outside of your household, you don't really have a household. You still on the slave plantation, bro.
So I just want to make sure that there's a point of clarification. She is talking about married couples, not couples that are shacking up. It's only in the confines of marriage. So do that changes the head of household conversation if the folks are just shacking?
You're not a head of house. If you're shacking, you're not a head of household. You just you like the head roommate or something. I don't mean it's not a household. You know what I mean? Y'all aren't married. Y'all aren't a unit. It's not a household. Y'all just live together. Y'all roommates. You the head roommate, the administrator, and they're the whatever. I don't know.
The junior roommate.
Yeah, I don't think it applies.
I'm sorry, the administrator.
Nick, you're muted.
I do want to push back a little bit, Jay, because you were saying something about the money piece, right? And I get that you were distilling it to, hey, how somebody, but somebody would say, like, a lot of people, who they are is part of what they do for a living, right? Like, so if a person's a doctor and they've dedicated a third of their lives to becoming a doctor that just also happens to pay well. They drive a nice car, like they move a certain type of way. Their life, how they present, the circles that they're in, a lot of that is dictated by the career and the choices that they made, the education that they went to, right? So I get to try to distill it to, oh, what somebody's willing to hire you for, but I think there's a lot that people can present when it comes to how much money you make, right? It can be a scoreboard that people may look at that way, or indicative of a compilation of choices. I guess I'm just pushing back to the idea that you just try to distill it into, oh, this is just what somebody's paying. I think it's credible for people to feel like it is indicative to how you've moved through life and the career that you've chosen and the life that you can provide for me and mine.
Okay, let me give this point. We're currently in a phase of time in our country where there are redoing some things like this DEI thing, for instance, right? So let's say that so we are moving into a place where people are going to be allowed to make decisions about your employment, right? And not have to consider that may be based upon your race or gender or whatever, and they won't have to. There will be no discussion of whether or not that was a factor. So let's propose we move into a time and space in America where those who have the most economic power in the country decide they are not going to empower black men economically, right? They don't need to make an announcement about it. They just need to. It just needs to be something we don't do very often. You get enough of it going that way. You know, the numbers work the way they work, kind of similar to the way they did at Florida State when they did that thing about the, whatever. So my point here is, while we think we live in this bubble where everything will continue as it has, it really doesn't take a whole lot of steps for us to get to a point where you can see black men not earning or not being hired at a certain rate because the social idea behind closed doors in the upper circles is we don't want these people in there for whatever reason.
I'm
And,
not
and
pushing
it,
back on that though, Jay.
right.
I'm
So
not
I'm
pushing back
saying.
on any of that.
So what are you saying? Because I'm saying if
I'm not
that.
pushing back on any of that. I'm saying I'm only
So,
pushing back on the idea that there are some people, despite what you're saying, they will
okay.
look at a person's income and they will derive certain things, and I don't think that's off. You said that you use very harsh language to describe people who may look at that and say, okay, this is the conclusion that you draw because somebody gave them a job. I'm pushing back on that to say
Yeah.
that there are some people who may look at that and draw other conclusions. Yes, you're a doctor who happens to make 300,000. I know you're a doctor. I know you make good money, but I also know you went to school for that. I know that you maybe care about helping other people. There's other inferences that people can draw. Or, hey, I also want a nice life for myself, or what I want for my family, right? That has to come with money. So I just want to make sure, like, there are people who are considering those things. I don't think it's unhealthy for people to consider that or even look at that as a key part of what they're looking at as a person, is what I'm saying.
What I'm saying is choose a mate based on whether or not you think they can live in the life that you want and or help you to get the life that you want. That's fine. The second one I wouldn't suggest, but okay, whatever. But when it comes to choosing who is the head of the household,
Mhm.
that should not be a monetary discussion. You should be choosing a mate. If you're choosing a man, you should be choosing a man whose wisdom, whose opinion you respect. You like the way he moves. You like the way he navigates the world. This is the man that you feel like you can rock with, right? That's what you should be with. Like I'm talking to the women now.
Yeah.
So if that's your dude, right? Does he need to make more money than you for him to be that dude? If he stops making more money than you, does he stop being that dude? And I'm saying because the answer to both those things should be no. The money thing is really not a factor when we're talking about head of household.
Okay, let me ask you this. Hold on, S&M. So is head of household based off of gender then?
Yes.
Okay, so for you, head of household strictly based off of gender, and so
Yes.
therefore everything else, gotcha. Okay, go ahead, S&M.
Yeah, so I was going to say, I'm going to go ahead and push back a little bit on that as well. Now, I actually do believe that the man is the head of the household because that's how it is in my household. However, I disagree with certain aspects of what you said, where it's basically based on the fact that he got a dick that automatically equates to him being the head of the household. And that's actually not a fair assessment because there are people who can have their man as the head of the household, but head of the household also means they have a vision. They have a path forward that they have for their future, for their house. And just because he has a dick does not necessarily equate to him being head of household material if he lacks that. So there are some women who will say that my significant cannot be the head of the household right now because he doesn't have a path forward. He doesn't have a vision. He spent all his time playing whatever he's doing or whatever the case may be. Or they may feel like he can't be the head of household because there's a lack of trust or there may be some other situation and issues that's taking place. But the biggest pushback that I have is that I think it's wrong to say that finances do not play a role in being the head of the household, even if the partner make less, especially if they don't have a vision or for the family and a path forward. And especially another reason why is because even though we recognize that black men they do have social constructs put in place to hinder their progress and whatnot, as a whole, black men still make more than black women. And so, as a matter of fact, on average, I think it was like $6,000 more than black women on average. And so, and as a matter of fact, black men actually make more in the when we talk about six figures and whatnot, but we don't have to talk about six figures. But in general, black men still make more than black women. So there's a potential for the black man to still be the head of the household. Ultimately, I think the head of household is dictated on that relationship and what they've established for the most part. Just saying you got a dick shouldn't be, oh, I'm the head of household because I got a dick. And a lot of men in society automatically be like, oh, I need my woman to be submissive because I'm the man, I'm the head of the household. But they have no vision. They're driving their girlfriend's car. And so it's like, what are you doing? So are we supposed to be submissive? And I'm using the term submissive because that's also somewhat loaded. But the expectation is for submission just based on the fact that you got a penis. And that's not fair to in my opinion. It's just not
Okay,
fair.
can I just because yeah, thanks. So look, a couple of things. All right, so first, having a penis is actually having the Y chromosome is what makes you a male. Okay, that's just it is what it is. Okay, now have being a male means that if you are in a household, you should be the head of the household. If a woman picks a man to be in her household and she don't want him to be the head, what she really got was either a babysitter or a companion or whatever. But she didn't get a man; she got a supporter. Okay. That's what she got. She got a supporter, and that's cool. But she's calling the shots. So it's her program. And she just called somebody on to help her with the program. She got a supporter. That's what I'm saying. And I'm saying if she married a man with no vision, and that's what she wanted. And she wanted to be the head of household. And and look, it's a big wide world. Do what you want to do. Do what works for you. Because what you eat don't make me you know what I mean? But that being said, I want to S&M finances, I still hold that all the stats you gave about with men making more, all that, whatever, does not apply. It doesn't. We have to divorce the money from the management, okay? Because management is a mindset. Management, like you said, the vision that he needed to have and everything, those things are important. Of course, if you don't have a vision, you can't lead anybody because you're not going to go anywhere. But if you are dumb enough to marry a man with no vision, that's what you deserve.
Accountability.
I'm serious. Now, if you want a man, if you get a man with no vision, then you're saying, I want a man that I lead who doesn't try to lead me because he won't try. He has no plan. Right. But if you're one of these women talking about, I need me a protector and I need me a man, I need me, then you should have found somebody with a vision. And if he's got a vision, and you have chosen him, that you said, I want to support and build his vision, our vision, then shut up and get in line. Right. Regardless to who makes more money. Right. Because
No,
that's who you backed. So back them.
no, no. This is. Go ahead, Delvin. I'm gonna go
I
ahead.
want to say, even with the money piece, let's say it is primarily the finances. So where's the cutoff to where one person doesn't have to listen to the other? Let's say, she makes $40 more than him, or 400 or 4,000. Like, where's the line? I think that's the point. Jay was getting at.
Wait, I don't
No,
understand
that's
though. Why
cap.
wouldn't
At
they
what
listen
point
to
It's a
do
good
each
point, though.
other? I
at
mean,
what
why
point can
wouldn't they
she
listen
say,
though?
"Shut up, nigga, I'm the boss around here"? Because I make, what's I'm trying to quantify it.
I mean,
What is
come
the
on,
appropriate gap
come on,
of
y'all.
income?
Like y'all not being for real, right? So yeah,
I'm totally
I'm
serious.
gonna help you.
I'm
I'm gonna
serious.
help you.
Okay,
Okay,
try.
$40 difference. That's not gonna be the. Come on, man. We're not. Most people, if they're relatively within a few thousand, you know what I mean. Y'all both went to college or whatever. You're not that far off. Let's stop playing, right? I think if we're really talking about like 40,000, 50,000 difference, okay, the ballpark where it's a sizable enough difference. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's a different ball game, right? So let's establish that. If the answer is Delvin's question, real quick, right?
But you bring a good point, though, Nick. If they make
What's
the
that?
same amount of money, who's the head? If they make the same amount of money, who's the head of household?
They arm wrestle.
Well, I'm glad. Okay, well, I was going to get there, right? I was going to get there because
Arm wrestle.
this is okay. So I'm going to say this, even though I am a man and I am the head of my household, okay? But I have a problem because That just might be coincidental, right? Because I'm just who I am, and I found someone who resonated with me. Going on 20 years on it, right? Cool. But what I hear a lot of is that niggas don't want to lead women. Niggas don't want the responsibility of women. If we're talking about the marriage issue, right? More people are advocating that responsibility. So I don't even know if brothers are even signing up to be ahead of anything aside from their own household. So let's start there for a second, right? So, and so I think we get caught in the past in the transition that's happening, right? Because all the magnificent qualities that y'all talking about, these brothers have to have if they're not making the most money. Because honestly, for most dudes, all they really do have is that they're making more money to claim to. A lot of them. And some of them, right, who don't make the other money have to claim the other things. But then if you examine it, it's like, well, how is that showing up exactly? How do you quantify, right, the things that all these other amazing qualities? Right. What I'm saying is that, yes, traditionally men have been the head of households, but we have way too many single mother households for that to be reality today. Meaning that there's a lot of households where men don't even exist in. So women are already being head of households anyway, with or without niggas, right? So you have women who are being their own head of households. You got niggas who are saying, nah, I'm good on that. I want to live my own life. I want to do me, right? So we're all these niggas, boom, 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 step it up. You know what I'm saying? Like the unsullied, right?
That's why I'm depressed.
Responsibility. What the fuck y'all talking about, man? So all people are left with low key is bread. And if you have a sister out here, I'm not even mad at the sister wanting to be a head of household. So let me just try to be a little bit more plain. I'm kind of off some of these chauvinistic mindsets because if dudes are living up to it, they'll get what they want because most people are. But I guess in general, though, when we had this conversation, Jay, as I was listening to you, I was like, if there's some women out there who are already doing a thing, what's wrong with the woman being the fucking head of household if she's making more money? If she's more fucking responsible, if she's better at leadership qualities, right? I know a woman who is all of these things and she's happily married, right? Her dude works for a nonprofit. He's not just home playing video games all day. He's productive in a field that he actually loves doing, but she makes the money, right? And low key, she's head of household. And low key, women who are smart enough to be head of households know how to make their man feel like he's head of household, even if she's really head of household, because that's what happened back in the day too. Y'all be full of shit, man. Because guess what? Because you don't need two bosses. You don't need two FAs. And a lot of y'all niggas ain't FAs, man. Just because you got a fucking penis. And unfortunately, a lot of these young women have had to grow up and become FAs. Because guess what? Their mama told them they couldn't rely on their non-FA ass. So they had to go to college, get an education, and figure out how to be bosses too. So maybe there's a new dawn, y'all. Maybe it's the Game of Thrones, right? And they finally killed the Night King. Maybe it's a new day. Maybe niggas got to sit there and be like, well, you know what? Maybe I can't be boss, but there's nothing wrong with being Scottie Pippen. You still winning the championship. It appalls me to think that in 2025, there's probably some niggas out here because of some remnants of sexism and chauvinism is going to stop them from finding their queen and bending the goddamn knee. You know what I'm saying? There are some women out there who are worthy of leading you, king. You just got to play king from the back position. You know what I'm saying? Like Kamala's husband was going to do if she would have got elected. You know what I'm saying? And guess what? He would have still been in the White House. Some of y'all niggas are in the doghouse. And you wouldn't even get behind a woman to be in the White House. What kind of bullshit is that? I get with Oprah. Shit, you know, I'd be stepping. You know what I'm saying? Because guess what? She got now going on for herself. Y'all niggas are full of shit. You know what I'm saying? What are we talking about here? You know what I'm saying? And so,
all that shit.
In conclusion, right? Because I do think Sheryl Underwood probably grew up at a time where she was used to seeing men being real men like that for real. As other men on the stage. Delvin, you talk about all the time, niggas boohoo crying. Are you going to tell me there's the same number of sturdy, stand-up, solid niggas that there was when Sheryl Underwood was out here? You know,
different time. You're right.
Come on, man. So we can't expect that if that was happening today. And I'm just saying that for the sake of black love and fucking marriage, it's okay to be a beta nigga, y'all. I'm tired of some of y'all niggas shaming beta niggas, y'all. If being a beta is going to put you together with the alpha woman and y'all can make that shit work and create fucking families and shit, then do that shit. You know what I'm saying? Every nigga don't got to be an alpha. And in fact, not every nigga can be an alpha if we're going to keep it a fucking fuck. You know what I'm saying? But we going to talk like we expect everybody out here to be stepping like the big dogs. No, bro. Many will call, but only few are chosen. And y'all acting like everybody can go out here and be a goddamn leader. That's a fucking lie. There's a lot of soldiers out here. You know what I'm saying? And it's okay to be a soldier. Nick said it's okay to be beta, my nigga. You know what I'm saying? And for some of y'all, beta's a step the fuck up. Stop playing with me, man. What else y'all want from me?
Yeah.
No. 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 No.
You know what I'm saying?
You guys really agree with me because y'all said it took all these other qualities, right? And I'm just saying the money should not be the deciding factor. So I think I still want, whatever. But yeah, we can move on.
So I'm going to say this. This is the way I'm going to interpret what you said. And I'm going to call this your disclaimer. Okay. So basically what you're saying, there's a difference between male and men. Men are the head of the household. Because I'm trying to differentiate between just because you got a penis, you become automatically the head of the household. Right. You're saying males are not head of the household material. Men are head of the household material, just to be
I'm not listen. No. I'm not gonna castrate the betas. Okay. If you want to play second fiddle, that's cool.
Yeah, stop castrating Jay.
What I am saying is make sure you playing second fiddle to a woman who's not looking for that protector type, whatever other thing who's not looking for a man out front. That's what I'm saying. Because y'all gonna be mad. Y'all gonna be fighting a lot. Right. That's what I'm saying. No, so if you want to play go ahead.
Yeah, he's got to stay in his lane.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that.
Background, stay in the back. Be ASAP Rocky. You know what I mean? Let her be Rihanna. That's do that. That's fine.
That's a great example. Great example.
ASAP is still the head of the household.
That's what
that's what
Nick was talking about.
Well, sidebar. Word on the street is that the reason why ASAP Rocky is currently facing charges where he might face up to 20 plus years, I think, in prison, was because Rihanna went to an event where one of his homeboys was at, and she was getting extra flirty with the nigga, and the nigga didn't like that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying, it's hard out there being a beta, but listen, man, I just don't want, it's okay. We just gotta, I feel like we gotta stop shaming niggas, y'all. Like a lot of niggas be shaming niggas. I don't like it. Let these niggas be. All right, speaking of niggas who be shaming niggas, okay? Apparently Ace Metaphor, AKA Mojo Jojo, I believe Keita Rose calls him that, which is hilarious to me, right? Ace Metaphor, if you guys don't know, he's the leader, the curator, if you will, of tonight's conversation. Very popular podcast, a lot of touring. They out here in these streets. I heard it was a great show, never got a chance to attend. I watched the clips. I enjoyed the content and the creators, but apparently Keita Rose, I had a lot to say. She did like a little short series on social media in regards to her feelings about what was going on. It was very entertaining. Let me start with that. Although I had to remind myself this is a real person who's expressing things that they've been through in real time. And so long story, less long, I guess. For many people, they feel like Ace Metaphor is kind of like, I wouldn't say a simp. A lot of his content is geared towards women. And so he created this great, platform. Different people come on and talk about all these different types of relationships, but apparently the relationships didn't stop in the conversation. People allegedly were doing things behind closed doors, on tours, on all fours with whores. Any more or words that I can think of that rhymes? But nonetheless, Keita's like, yo, man, you owe me some money. The drama is out there, recordings and all that. There's a lot of stuff here. Where do y'all want to start? Sipping ain't easy. Bitch better have my money. You know what I'm saying? Was this inevitable? I mean, okay, let's start here. If you have a popular podcast full of us, right, and we outside going from city to city, was it inevitable that this was going to happen when you have the mixture of us, probably, some vibes, and the type of conversation that these guys were having on a continuous basis?
I mean, I hate to say because hopefully we'll be touring, and then I don't want nobody's wives and husbands to get nervous, so it didn't have to happen. You know what I mean? But you spend enough time around anyway.
Oh wow, God did not right. Wow. Wow.
No, sir. We're rejecting this right now.
Was he smited?
You was about to blaspheme against the Tonight Show.
I guess so.
Let me you all right, buddy?
Yeah, I'm all right, man. The lights went out. And I was playing. So
it was like thunder and lightning.
They listening. All right, so I'll be quick and I'll be nice. I think anytime if you spend enough time around anybody, you'll like them, and you can develop a connection and attachment. So I think there was elements of that that were bound to happen over enough time. But I do think it's kind of like the whole Derek Jackson thing, not to get him catch it stray or anything. But if you're going to project that you're one thing, if you're going to espouse these ideas and say that this is what who you are, then people are going to hold you accountable when you show up differently, right? And I think that's kind of what this is here. They made it was a great product, great brand, made a real good name for giving people real candid talk, and you thought you were hearing from the person as far as their views, and I guess because over time, if enough people give you pushback, you can kind of shape your views to where you can deliver them consistently, clearly. And I think that's where they were. But then to find out that you're like, oh my god, like one lady, it's all hearsay, but anyway. So there's one lady who's like, she real, like polite or whatever. One of the hosts on there, and it turns out that she likes getting peed on, right? And she's like, doesn't, and that's fine. That's not no thing
We
on her,
listen and we
right?
don't
We
judge.
don't judge. You know what I mean? We don't. I'm not even sure about squirt yet, so I'm not judging nobody. But what I'm saying is, I'm saying that people, the personalities that they portrayed on stage turned out not to be the person who they really were, and I think that's what's making it all unravel, and that's what people are really keyed into right now. I think it's kind of like a train wreck of slow motion. They're some people are happy because they didn't like them. They like what people were saying, and now they get to say, I knew he was full of shit because he's full of shit. And then some people are really sad because they were basing their life off these people that they had decided they were going to pattern after, right? These avatars that they were going to be like, and now these things aren't real, and they're like, well, I don't know what to believe. I don't know who to follow, and it'll be interesting to see how it falls out. I'll just say that I'm not telling y'all none of my secrets in case shit go bad. All
Yeah, this is a complete mess. I mean, this kind of gets back to not shagging the women at your job, man. So stop doing that. But even on top of that, the piece where he's presenting himself as one way and you're really just doing like sleazy stuff behind the scenes, it catches up with you. Same thing with Derek Jackson. So I think the big disconnect and why it's so messy and why it's blown up so much is the disconnect between who he is and what he's actually doing, his rhetoric versus the reality of him. And it's not just the Keto Rose chick. You've got a couple of other people. Like the entire thing is fall apart. It's not like she's just allowing, but other people are leaving as well. So the entire show or the future of it is in question. It may be he keeps it going and they just kind of rotate people in and out. I don't know, but it's a lot of hearsay. It's a big mess of money, non-disclosure agreements. Uh, it's a worst case scenario. If I was in his position, this would literally be a nuclear worst case scenario. What do you guys think?
So I don't think it's a nuclear worst case scenario because Derek Jackson, he's coming back.
Is he?
Yeah, he's already doing videos. He's no longer in his car with the little bitty t-shirts on,
He's not in front
but
of his side
he's
chick's house.
you know, but he's actually starting to do videos, and so I think it's a bad situation for him right now. What I'm gonna say is that so I would say I don't want to say that he was simping per se, but most people viewed it as him being he's simping,
That's
and, you know.
exactly what he was doing.
And so it was like simping ain't easy, but he sure was being greasy. And so he was basically benefiting from his simping. He was like, he was being rewarded for it. And the reward was not necessarily just so I don't know if he had relations with the people on the cast themselves, but with the audience members. So you have people coming to the show and he's smashing the audience allegedly. And so it was like, okay, and we have all these women. So this is what I will say about certain type of women. First of all, you went to the show because you enjoyed the conversation. You think this guy's giving you all this truth. You know he's married, but then you go sleep with him? Like, hold on a second. Wasn't the whole purpose of you going to the show was because he was speaking to you and telling you how you deserve better? But yet his wife didn't deserve better for him not to cheat on her like that, apparently constantly in every city. It was like ludicrous everywhere I go. He got a hoe in every city. What is it? So, anyways, so the point that I'm making is that I think that I feel bad for the situation between him and his wife. I don't know if she knew about it prior to. I think she had some suspicions because according to some of the dialogue that has come out from a certain person, she told her like, hey, because the lady, his wife asked like, is he faithful? And so he was portraying this character, and this is what questions. This is what I always wonder. So when we have these type of podcasts, these type of shows, and so forth, there's a character that's being portrayed, right? And how far do you go into that? And how far do you before this becomes a lie, so to speak, right? So I think in this case, Ace was pretty much full of shit. And but he had an opportunity to be full of shit because women did soak it up. And then you even had men coming to the show asking questions and so forth. The only people who seemed who's going to walk away unscathed, apparently there was two married guys on the show, and she acknowledged that those two married guys was like, well, let me bounce out. Like right after the show, they'll go straight back to the hotel. They didn't party, none of that stuff. And so those two guys portrayed the person who they were throughout the show and was consistent. I think this was just a matter of Ace getting more than what he bargained for, because it's like Kevin Hart, the kid who got teased all the time, didn't get no coochie, but then he became super famous and now everybody was throwing coochie at him. And now he's like, oh, coochie, 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 you know. And so I think that's what the situation was exactly. It was like, oh, it's free. It's so many. It's a plethora. It's a variety. Let me dibble dabble, dibble dabble. So it's
So as much as I want to get into my toxic bag, I want to try to be a little fair here and no, this is not me auditioning for tonight's conversation, right? If for whatever reason you were to see me on that platform, it's completely coincidental. Okay. But no, I want to say this. I want to be fair because so far I've mostly heard Keita Rose's side of this story. So I don't know what's true and not true, right? If I'm going to also be honest, it's easy for us, and I think for me to believe that here's a black man who built this platform. And anytime, a lot of times when brothers are in this position, either we're accused of it and we're probably guilty, or maybe we're not accused of it and we're guilty, right? Or we're none of the above, right? I'm just saying that, like, it's easy to throw these allegations on people to a certain extent, right? Anytime you see a brother, he's going to be around a bunch of people. All I've seen, I'm saying for me, if people have seen other things, other receipts, I respect that. I'm saying for me, I have not seen it. I've watched her lives. I think she's immensely talented and entertaining. I enjoy watching her content. I enjoyed watching her on the platform. So I don't really have necessarily a dog in the race outside of the fact that this is kind of interesting to watch unfold, like a lot of dramas are, unfortunately. But what I'm saying is that whether it's in the church, whether it's in like entertainment, like these stories of black men being in a position of leadership and then taking advantage of that. Of course, the money piece comes in there, right? And then, of course, the women piece. We're going to talk about this, hopefully, if we have time, about MLK. So it's not like these things are not something that's been happening. Men who are powerful or famous, who have money, yes, women are attracted to them. And no, those women are not thinking, I'm going to marry him. They're out there being a groupie because the power of celebrity sometimes will cause people to push past whatever morals they claim they had. And yes, the bar for celebrity is a podcaster these days, right? So yeah, I'm not even mad. And I'm not even mad at Buddy doing what Buddy do. You know what I'm saying? That's his business, and his wife and them got to deal with that. Now, low key, the argument can be made, like, why does Shorty have to say that? Right? That might be a little bridge too far. Like, I mean, I get it that you're, talking about your stuff, but you're also bringing other people into this situation, right? And it kind of reminded me, I forgot what story that was we were talking about where, I think it was like the whole Joy Taylor thing where it's like, well, damn, Joy ain't the one bringing up these charges, so why you're bringing Joy's name up? So now she has to account for these things that Shorty is saying, all for the sake of, making whatever at this man. So I'm just saying, I don't know what to believe. But the one thing I will say, though, that I do believe wholeheartedly is that there is money in simping to black women, and black women eat that shit up. And I'm not mad at entrepreneurs in a capitalistic society figuring out a way to get the product to the people who have a demand for it. You know what I'm saying? Like Chris Brown, he has a product and people go and pay $1,000 to do his show just to get a little walkthrough, whatever, right? He commands that. That's the marketplace, right? I wouldn't pay that. Maybe people, I don't know, but that's what the marketplace is. So I'm not totally mad. Now, where I do understand there's a problem is when niggas aren't being for real, for real. You get what I'm saying? But let me ask y'all this, though, about the simping thing. Because I feel like the problem with that is people are going to say you're being hypocritical. But are you, though? Like, are you, though? Like if I'm telling other people that, hey, you should have these standards, And even if I don't meet them, and who says I'm trying to meet them for you? What's wrong with me telling women, hey, you deserve this, queen? Even if I'm a fucking, like, even if I'm a fucking scumbag. What's wrong? Is it possible for me to really believe that? Is it possible for me to be like, hey, kids, don't do drugs, but smoke a crack pipe? You dig what, like that kind of thing, where it's like, I can do something, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to encourage you to do it. In fact, I might want to encourage you to do something different, right? Because I feel like maybe we're being a little too harsh.
So at the risk of being, I'm sorry. I just gotta do this. I'm sorry. So from my understanding, simping is when you're doing something, pandering to women to your own detriment. If he was getting benefits, was he really simping then? Is what my
Yes.
question is.
That's
Because
why
his
sipping
benefit was the
started.
cooch.
No, no,
Huh?
no, no, no. Simping started because guys were faking the funk and they were being all soft and whatever and saying whatever they had to say to get a reward. And then when one guy saw another guy get a reward for doing that simp shit, he was like, "Oh, I can do that too." And then another simp was born. Right now, there's so many simps in the market. There's not enough for all the simps to get paid for the simping. Right? There's an abundance of simps in the market, so it doesn't pay off as well. But yeah, no, they get stuff for it. Yeah, it's still simping. If I'm saying things just to appease a certain demographic so that they will support me, but I don't really believe these things or live these things, then I am simping.
Okay, thanks
Whether
for
I
the
guess if I'm,
explanation. My
yeah.
apologies for stepping on
But
that question.
No, that's a good question. Like,
No, that's a
it
good
would be
question.
different if he got up there and said, "Hey, if somebody got up there, not just him, but anybody, look, I'm a total sleaze bag, but here's my 2 cents," and they still want to sleep with him anyway. Yeah, okay, but then you presented yourself. I told you I was a sleaze bag. What I'm saying on my platform completely contradicts that, but here we are. But like I said, it's a whole industry in telling women in general and black women in particular what they want to hear. If you want to make a lot of money, just tell women what they want to hear. The confirmation bias is already built in. You don't have to do any market research. You don't have to need to read any white papers. You don't have to read any psychology studies. It's already baked in. You just gotta know your audience and tell them what they want to hear, and the money's gonna start rolling in.
I want to clarify something real quick, right? Because that's the name. I think that was a good question. You did kind of step on the question. I almost don't even remember the question. But what I want to point out though is that there's different. Everybody has their own definition, kind of simping, right? So Jay mentioned kind of a more broader definition where people are just kind of saying whatever to get an end, right? I think I kind of was more with your definition, where it's like you're doing something or saying something to the detriment of yourself, right? To that extent. But most people, when I hear, and this is honestly, I didn't know that they were calling this guy this. I mean, I saw a piece of his content. I haven't watched like full episodes, but they were saying that, hey, they were comparing him to Derek Jackson. They were comparing him and saying that he was simping, right? And so I feel like if a person really believes what they're saying, and that's where I'm trying to draw the distinction. I think if the hypocrisy of it is what people have an issue with, right? But do as I do, not as I say is a thing. I think oftentimes people differentiate my position from your position. So if I'm a man, I think as a man, I can move a certain type of way, right? But then I can still think differently as a woman that y'all should move a certain type of way. So I guess I'm trying to draw the connection between why you would call him a simp if you think if he's being hypocritical, but on what point though? Is it possible for a person to believe something, but then their actions kind of speak to something else a little bit?
Well, and I think that is the kind of $1 million question. Does he believe what he's saying? Did Derek Jackson believe what he was saying? I mean, am I the guy who is, I'm cheating on my wife wearing a "don't cheat on, black men don't cheat" shirt. So do I believe what I'm saying? And if he believes what he's saying is true, then okay, well, I think that might be a different story. But if I'm saying stuff I don't believe just to for likes and clicks and everything, then yeah, like somebody said earlier, it's a character. It's no different than Tom Cruise in a movie. I know that he's not really Ethan Hunt. He's a character.
So, so to answer that, because I feel where Nick is coming from, because that's kind of where I was leaning towards as well. But what if he actually does treat his wife like a queen, do everything that he said he's doing to his wife? So is he really being hypocritical if he's actually upholding? Because there's been some conversations where back in the day, like as long as you don't bring that shit home, then you good. As long as you treat me right. and I'm still, there's no effect in my household, then you're good. And so there's still that. So that's why I was wondering the difference, because I didn't view it as simping, because regardless if he was getting the, being hypocritical or not, he was getting benefit. And from all accords, he actually did treat his wife like a queen. While he may not treat me like a queen.
But this is what they're going to say, S&M, and I'm glad you said that, right? So let's say, for example, he cheats, right? Obviously, he's on the road, he's doing this thing, right? Cool. But if he still cheated his wife a certain type of way, and he's telling women, hey, you deserve a man who's going to treat you some type of way, he may not think, oh, okay, because I'm cheating, that's going against what I'm saying. I'm treating my wife the way that I'm whatever. And come on now, if we're going to be men have been logic, right? So if you ain't getting caught or whatever, some people might feel like, hey, I'm whatever. So I'm saying that doesn't make him a simp in terms of he's going against how he might really feel just because actions might say, oh, he's a cheater. That's you know what I'm saying? That's the point I was trying to draw. But I want to ask another quick question before hopefully we have enough time, because I think somebody said this earlier, like this tonight, the conversation around podcasts has grown, especially in the gender war relationship space, right? There are people who are watching these podcasts, maybe even ours, and being influenced, right, by these influencers, right, and people who do these podcasts. And then you hear these different stories about Derek Jackson's or whoever. So I guess my question is, like, what do y'all think about how people pedestalize or listen to people who don't, even us, for example, right? The nature of podcasts or listening to podcasts, and how people may get disappointed when they finally realize their favorite podcaster may not be who they fucking thought it was.
So go ahead, Jay.
Please go.
Okay. So I would say this. I think that, so one of the things that I do like about, so I'm going to talk about our podcast first. One of the things I like about our podcast is that we do have a disclaimer. We do say this is for entertainment only. And while we're hoping that you're being informed while we're entertaining, we recognize that there is some level of influence, which is why we do the disclaimer. Some of these podcasts don't even have that type of disclaimer because they try to present themselves as if they're fact. They try to present themselves as if this is who they really are, or that's just the manner in which they operate. So I like the fact that we will start off our show like this is a disclaimer, this is entertainment. And at some point, depending on what information we're providing, we will also say that you take this information as you will, and I think that's important to that. Now, as far as people basically putting folks on a pedestal, I think society in general have to find some way to put someone on a pedestal because we've been taught to have role models. And because we've been taught to have role models, it's easier to allow somebody to influence us. Even with our podcast, we are doing something because we wanted to change the tide of all the negativity within the manosphere, red pill, pink pill, whatever the hell it is now. We wanted to change that tide and provide somewhat of a balanced conversation while still being a little fun and entertaining. And so it's almost human nature, dare I say, to basically put somebody on the pedestal. Even when you're a little kid, the first thing you see is your mother, your father, or whoever's in your life, and you start admiring that person. So they continue to speak on something that you resonate with, then you're more likely to pay attention to that person. And I think it's actually kind of a disservice, especially when you realize there's so many pedestals. I mean, not pedestals, there's so many podcasts that are out there. And if you're in a podcast space where it's in particular, but like entertainment, even with like your movie stars and so forth like that, how I think it's actually kind of a detriment to us because we get to the point where we provide these people with this, like we view them as like godlike complexes, and we shouldn't be viewing them that way because at the end of the day, everybody got to go to the toilet, take a poop. So
Thank you for that toilet analogy. In answer to your question, I think that we the first rule of being a speaker, right? It is that you should be an authority in what you're talking about, right? Even if you got to do some research or something. So I think when people get up to do podcasts, I think the assumption of the viewer is that the person who's speaking knows something of what they're talking about and is something of an authority of what they're talking about. That's why they listen to them. And then once that person has identified themselves or been recognized as an authority, then we look at them and we go, well, shoot, this person has a lot of knowledge that I want. So they, in essence, are in a place where I want to be. I think that's where the pedestal comes from. So I think then once that person had, because of either the maturity they've gained or the wisdom or perspective, whatever they are, maybe just the notoriety, we're like, they are somewhere where I want to be. So I'm going to keep watching them, listening to them, following them so I can learn to be more like them. It becomes a form of worship. I know it's a hard word. I know I just triggered a whole bunch of church people, but it does, because you see something that you idolize and you want to become more like it, right? I think America the media is set up for that. I think, and like you said, Nick, podcasting is like the new celebrity. I think we all want to be seen, right? And if we can't be seen immediately, we want to be next to somebody who is being seen. So then maybe we'll be seen in the panoramic view of it or whatever. We can be famous adjacent. We're all looking for somebody to listen to. I think somebody who knows something, somebody to give us some guidance, because I'm almost 50, and I still wake up some mornings and like, dude, I wish I had somebody who could just tell me like, yo, this is the way we're gonna map this out, or this is how this goes. Thank God for ChatGPT. That's a whole other conversation. Anyway, the short version of what I'm trying to say is we're always gonna, when I was in the church, they idolized preachers, evangelists. We're always going to look up to the people who are in position of authority or in a position to teach us, because they have something that we're trying to get. What we have to make sure, and what I'm really trying to drive home, I know we do a lot of entertainment here, but please make sure, people, that you represent what you are, and who you are, or whatever. You know what I mean? And then you won't have to have these problems come through. I think that's where the disconnect comes in. I think if people were genuine, then if people were following the person who's genuine and knowing that we're all different, right? We're multifaceted. Nobody's ever one thing, right? The same guy who was a elder in the Apostolic Church is also one of the greatest swing party throwers in DFW. Who knew, right? Stuff happens. So we're multifaceted. We got different sides. We have to learn to embrace all of people. And first, people, you have to learn to embrace all of yourself. Peace. Hush.
Well, and I think you guys touched on it a little bit earlier. I think for me, some of the issue kind of comes in is presenting yourself as an authority on something. And I think for me, the big issue is, as an audience member, does the person who's presenting themselves as an authority, do they have the results I want? To me, that kind of makes you an authority. If I want a particular financial result and Nick is a financial advisor, I'm going, okay, Nick's got the financial results I want. He's doing this thing. I need to go talk to him and figure out, see if he can show me how to get where he is. Now, it turns out, he's, got negative $35 in his bank account and all this stuff. His credit score is 35. Okay, well, that's presenting yourself as a financial guru is kind of problematic, So I think the bigger issue is, are the person that you kind of take seriously or that you look to for some insight, are they living what they're talking? And if they're not, I think that's a bit of an issue. That's my perspective on this whole issue with tonight's thing. But to your point, Nick, we're only hearing one person's side of it. I don't know all the ins and outs. We're only getting one side of it, so we gotta, reserve judgment and be fair. And there's money involved too, so that can definitely, inflame, people's perspective and rage levels. So that's me.
So I just want to jump real quick and say I think that one of the things that we don't recognize is that we're all just human, and human make mistakes, and I think that we do a disservice when, because we don't put them on a pedestal, that we forget the human aspect, the human nature of that person, that individual, and therefore that makes their fall harder, right? And so the taller the pedestal, the harder you fall, basically. And I think that I agree that we are only hearing one side, but I will note when he put the extortion video out there and say she's extorting me, I was like, you shouldn't use terms like extortion, because usually that means there's some level of truth to what's being said. And so I thought
That's a
that
good
was,
point.
I don't know if that was the best thing for him to do, to try to garner the sympathy card. But I will say that I think if we just recognize that we're all humans and all humans make mistakes, and there should be some grace given. And ultimately, the relationship piece of it with him and his wife, that's between him and his wife, on how they're going to figure it out, how they're going to work it out. And as a matter of fact, for the rest of the show, they're already figuring out, like, you have two people who are already leaving to do their own thing and so forth. So there are some times where some things can just be used as a platform, a jumping point to go on and do greater things. I don't think this is going to be in the eights. I think that he'll probably reinvent himself like Derek, and come out with a plea of how he learned his lesson, and that just made him stronger and so forth. And so I'm gonna say best of luck to all of them.
Facts. Listen, I'm agree with you, S&M. Before we get up out of here, I'll just say that I do agree with you that I think he'll be fine. I don't know that enough stuff has come out to where people are really canceling them. I think people are interested. I think his platform was still going to be entertaining. People will still probably tune in as long as like nothing earth shaking happens or whatever. He'll be all right. I think he'll continue to soldier on. I do want to encourage people, man, to just do good business as much as possible, y'all. Like, I hate hearing about Black people whenever we come together. It's like it's always one of these fucking stories, which is why we don't have trust amongst each other, right? Whether it's like, hey, we're going to do this. Oh, be careful. Like, there's a certain level of distrust when you hear stories like this. It just makes it worse for the rest of us, right? In terms of just trying to move forward and be a part of the space. Other thing I'll say too is that, listen, man, listen to who you want to listen to. But the problem is people are too fucking lazy to do the work on their own. You dig what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you might get a snippet. Like you listen to one podcast. That solved all your relationship problems. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was able to solve all that in one podcast. You didn't have to do no real work, right? Like, actually go see a professional or a therapist to work through your individual problems that cannot be covered by listening third hand to a fucking podcast presentation, right? Do we have to really tell people that we have to put a disclaimer at the top of the show? Like, a lot of this is entertainment, y'all. I hate to break it to you. Right? Individually, performers try to find a balance between their authentic self and the version of themselves they want to sell you for commerce. You know what I'm saying? I didn't really think Ja Rule was his real name, did you? My point is, it's like,
Are you
what the
saying
fuck?
Dr. Dre isn't really a doctor?
You know what I'm saying? Like, people just got to be for real, for real. So when people say, oh my God, like I'm being led by, like, why the, that's y'all dumbasses. So I don't feel no type of way, right? And the only other thing I'll say to push back a little bit, Delvin, is a conversation like a person who's not married can't tell me about marriage. That's probably true, right? I look at information like as like not just one thing. Like, you can give me the information, yes. I'm going to judge that, but I'm also going to maybe look at the person giving me the information, the context, and all that other kind of stuff, right? Far too often, I think people are closed off from information. That's all it is. You can choose to accept it or not choose to accept it. If you choose to accept it, then you got to be accountable for making that choice, right? So with that being said, we appreciate y'all for tapping in to yet another episode of Off-Season Conversation. We're going to be gone for a couple of weeks. Yeah, man, you know what I'm saying? We celebrate Black History Month early. Shout out to Black History Month. We'll be back in a few weeks. Y'all stay tuned. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, get the notification. And we got some extra content coming your way. So stay tuned for that. We are ready with the extra content. With that being said, on behalf of myself, S&M, Del the Expert, Just Jay, a.k.a. Mr. Boop Woods, we'll see y'all next time. Until then, be easy. Peace. And scene. All right. S&M said we should be done by 10:30. I said, oh shit, it's 10:44, girl.
Well, that's when because Jay said he might jump off. I think he said you only had 32 something.
Yeah, I only had 32
hours.
minutes for my browser reset.
Yeah,
I can't stop it.
Is
that what happened?
Yeah, that's what happened.
Oh yeah.
And so I was like, well, maybe we could be done before, but I was like, it's okay. I'm just entertained that you guys both put y'all chat in the wrong chat. Y'all put it in the live chat that will be on YouTube versus the studio chat.
I know. I said I'm sorry. Listen, we can go and delete it though, right? We can go and delete it.
We could go and delete it.
Oh, let me go look right now. The hell?
Yeah.
I just saw the little bubble. I'm like, all right, this is where everybody talking at. Let me just.
No, it's the studio chat.
Studio chat. Okay.
Live chat.
Live chat. Okay. Yeah. Okay. You know what?
We can stop.
I posted an apology.
So